Hi, I'm Sean from Learnsmarter, and today I'm excited to show you how I'm setting up myTrailhead for the first time. In fact, I'm lucky enough to do it twice because I've got two separate orgs that I'm going to set up. One is going to be configured using Trailblazer.me as the identity mechanism, and the other one is going to be set up using the newer Salesforce ID for myTrailhead. One thing I do have to say, please note this video is a representation of the unboxing experience I had when I configured myTrailhead. It may have omissions or errors, and the instructions may have changed since it was made. You should not rely on this video when configuring your own myTrailhead instance and should use the official materials produced by Salesforce for this purpose. The first thing I'm going to cover is the same whether you're going to use Trailblazer.me or Salesforce ID for myTrailhead as your identity provider, and that's licenses and permission sets. So here is my brand new org. The first thing to do is to check that myTrailhead is actually provisioned. myTrailhead licenses are supplied using something called a permission set license. To see what has been provisioned, go to the Setup menu. Information on licenses is displayed on the company information page. So just start typing company in the quick find and there it is. Click the link to go to the page. To see the permission set licenses, I just need to scroll down a little bit. You may be able to see the licenses in this view. This is a demo org and I have quite a number of permission set licenses, which means I can't see the myTrailhead licenses on the screen. I need to see more licenses, but that feature hasn't quite made it into Salesforce Lightning yet. The only way I know to get to see the other permission set licenses is in Salesforce. So very quickly, let's switch over and then I can see the licenses. There they are. Great. I have myTrailhead in my org. Before I do anything else, I'll switch back to Lightning and go to the Setup menu again. I'm very used to Lightning now, so this definitely feels better. The next step is to give myself some permissions. To do that, I need to use a permission set. So start to type permission into the quick find and then click on permission sets. If you scroll down the page, you'll see that 3 permission sets have been added in when myTrailhead was provisioned. I actually only need the first of these 3 and I could use that, but I'm going to create a new permission set from scratch. Scroll back up to the top and click New. Give it a label, an API name and a description. I'm calling mine myTrailhead Super User. All my permission sets are prefixed LSX so that they're easy to spot, but you can name your permission set to whatever you like. Note that I don't pick a license type at this time. My testing suggests that any myTrailhead user who has the appropriate permissions can administer myTrailhead, but you should check with your Salesforce account executive to make sure. Right, now I need to add in the permissions. Go to System Permissions and click Edit. If you scroll down the page, you'll see the myTrailhead permissions. The specific permission I need to configure myTrailhead is myTrailhead Branding Management, but as a super user, I'm adding all 6 of these. When I create permission sets for the end users, I just need to give them the myTrailhead Content Access permission, and again, in this case, I don't want to assign a specific license type. Anyway, this permission set is done, and I just click Save. Now to assign this to my user. So I go to the user record. First thing I need to do is to assign the myTrailhead permission set license, and then I can apply my super user permission set. You have to apply them in this order or you'll get an error when you try to assign the permission set. That's all done, so I'm ready to move to the next step of the implementation. Before you go any further, you need to have decided what name to use for your myTrailhead subdomain and what namespace you're going to use. I'm now going to implement myTrailhead using Trailblazer.me as the identity provider. The next part happens inside the Trailblazer community. I now go to trailhead.salesforce.com/en/subdomain. I'm already logged in, but if I wasn't, I'd need to log in now using my Salesforce username and password. Note that you can potentially hit a snag here if you have your Trailblazer identity linked to more than one Salesforce account. I cover that potential issue at the end of this video, but this Salesforce login isn't linked to any other accounts and has never been used with another myTrailhead instance, so I'm good to go. Now I need to enter my subdomain and my namespace. I'm going to use slightly different names for each, but it's up to you what you do. Then I simply click Done and then confirm my choice. Note that whilst it's easy to do this, the only way to change things later is by contacting Salesforce support. Then I click Next, and now it's decision time. You need to decide which authentication provider to use. In fact, you need to have made this decision well before you get to this point. I'm going to configure one of each because I have two completely separate myTrailhead instances, but you can only choose one method, and once you've chosen it, if you create any data in myTrailhead, you cannot change your mind at a later date. The two choices you have are to use Trailblazer.me or Salesforce Identity for myTrailhead, and you need to do your own research on this if you haven't already done so. Salesforce recommend using Salesforce Identity for myTrailhead. My personal view is that if you're only ever going to use myTrailhead internally and you want to have access to your users' public Trailhead badge data, then Trailblazer.me has some potential advantages. If you want to use myTrailhead with people outside your organization, I think Salesforce Identity for myTrailhead is a much better choice. This time I'm going to use Trailblazer.me. It's very simple. All I do is click Use Trailblazer.me and confirm my choice, and it's done. That's it. myTrailhead is set up and ready to go. Now I can go into myTrailhead and start building some trails. Once I'm in myTrailhead, I can go into TrailMaker and start setting everything up. Great. Well, that was pretty straightforward. Now let's see what you need to do if you want to use Salesforce Identity for myTrailhead. I'm now in a completely separate Salesforce org, which is going to use its own myTrailhead instance. I've already created the permission set and assigned the licenses and done all that good stuff. I've also created a community, or digital experience site as it's now called. One decision you have to make is how your users are going to authenticate, whether that's through your digital experience site or through Salesforce. This is another thing you can't change later, so again you need to do some research. It is possible for all of your internal users to access a community or digital experience with their existing Salesforce license. But if you're going to have external users now or at any time in the future who might want to access myTrailhead, then I don't see that you have a choice and you have to use an Experience Cloud site. The first part of the process is exactly the same. I create my subdomain and namespace. But hang on, this is really important. Once you've completed this step, you will have created a myTrailhead subdomain. You need this URL later in the process, and it's not that easy to get back to it. I recommend that you copy this now and put it somewhere you're going to be able to easily find it, such as a document that you can access it, where you can access it later. Okay, once I've done that, this time I choose to set up Salesforce Identity for myTrailhead. Now, this is a bit more of a complex process because, as you can see here, I have to create a connected app. So what is a connected app exactly? A connected app is described as a framework that enables an external app to integrate with Salesforce using APIs and standard protocols such as Security Assertion Markup Language, or SAML, and OAuth. And if all that sounds like a foreign language and one that you don't speak, this is all about single sign-on. Single sign-on is that thing that lets you access one service by authenticating through another one. For example, you can log into TripAdvisor using Facebook. Salesforce ID for myTrailhead uses single sign-on. The connected app is a thing that you need to create in Salesforce to make that single sign-on magic happen. Potentially, you need a fair amount of knowledge to set up a connected app from scratch, but luckily I have the instructions to follow, so I'm just going to do that. I go into Setup, search for the App Manager, and then I can create a new connected app. I give it a name, an API name, add my email address, and of course I give it a description. I need to enable OAuth settings. The next thing I need to enter is a callback URL. I said earlier that you need to remember your myTrailhead subdomain. Luckily I did and have that ready in the clipboard so I can just paste it in. Then I add /auth/mytrailhead/callback at the end. This part tells the connected app where to send users once they've logged in. It is again very important to get this part right, because if you don't and you activate Salesforce Identity, neither you nor your users will be able to log into myTrailhead. Next, you need to add some OAuth scopes. We're deep into single sign-on territory now, so I'm just going to do what it says in the help file and add in these 4 permissions. Access your basic information, allow access to your unique identifier, perform requests on your behalf at any time, and provide access to custom applications. Next, I select Require Secret for Web Server Flow. This has already been checked. Now I can create a single logout URL. This should log your users out of Salesforce if they log out of myTrailhead, and log them out of myTrailhead if they log out of Salesforce. You need that myTrailhead subdomain again, and this time you add /auth/mytrailhead/logout at the end. That's all we need to do, so now I click Save. It takes a few minutes for all this to happen, but we can carry on to the next step whilst that is going on. I just click Continue. Now I click Manage and I need to go to edit my policies. I'm still just doing what it says in the help file. I have a choice about permitted users, but I'm going to follow the recommendation and select Admin Approved Users are pre-authorized. Then I click Save. If you have selected Admin Approved Users are pre-authorized, then you next need to define who an admin user is, and that's based on the Salesforce profile. I'm just selecting System Administrator and then I click Save. Now that I've created the connected app, I need to get the consumer key, and to do that, I go to the App Manager. You can see the SFID connector app I created. I just need to select View, and I'm going to need these keys in a minute. I still have the myTrailhead app setup page open. Earlier, I talked about how you want your users to authenticate, because now I need to enter the login page URL. I want digital experience or community users to access myTrailhead, so I'm going to use my digital experience site URL here. Now I need to get that URL. I've already set up a very basic digital experience site. It's active and it's published. If I go back to the Salesforce homepage, I can access the site from here. I go into the site and grab the URL. I don't need the /s part. Paste that into the myTrailhead setup page. Then I get the consumer key and finally the secret key, and then I click Activate. That's it done, and I can now log into myTrailhead. Note that if you are authenticating through a digital experience site, you need to go to that site before you can go to myTrailhead. One last thing I want to cover relates to my Trailblazer Community account. I'm playing around with a number of different orgs, and this is just a quick heads up about something that can go wrong in that situation and how to resolve it. I understand that this is going to be a fairly unusual situation, but it does cause problems later in the process when you try to create a new myTrailhead subdomain, so I think it's worth explaining. During the configuration process, you are going to need to log into the Trailblazer community, regardless of which identity mechanism you ultimately select for myTrailhead. Let's do this and see what happens. My org is brand new, so I'm going to register in the Trailblazer community for the first time. Now you see that when I attempt to do that, the Trailblazer Identity system recognizes that my email is already linked to an existing account, so it wants to link these accounts together. I don't want that to happen, but unfortunately I don't get the choice. I can demonstrate this by moving to my main Trailblazer Community account. You can see that the new account has automatically been linked. If this happens to you and you want to resolve it, my recommendation is that you disconnect the new account when you are logged into your main account. Don't try to resolve this from the new account. I lost all my Trailhead badges and all my certs for about 24 hours doing something like that. And whilst I was able to get them back, it's not something I'd recommend. Right, now we've disconnected that account, I can go back to my new account. To resolve this, the solution is to change my email address for my user in this new org to something that's unrelated to any existing account. I won't show you the actual process, but that's been done. And you can see that this time when I try to register, the process is different and I'm able to register as a new user. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.